You can't rap better than Lupe Fiasco raps on the third verse of Hurt Me Soul, because you can't as easily connect the personal human struggle to the broader macro factors causing said struggle with the diversity, ease, and lyrical dexterity that he did. First line of the third verse, he mentions the Grim Reaper, this anticipated death, if you will. Second line is talk about Macintosh marketing. We're talking about the extraction of resources for decades that the U.S. has basically firmly implanted themselves in resource-rich countries and extracted, all for the sake of pushing product and commodification. No matter how we market and package this thing, it's made up of a bunch of very valuable components that we don't have available in the U.S. And we go into other countries like, cobalt is very much extracted for iPhones and things of the like. We talk about oil fields, right? This is basically the millennial timeline wrapped up in a nutshell, because we've been fighting for oil basically since we were born, and it's one of the most discussed things in the political and news landscape from a millennial lifetime perspective, from the invasion of Iraq to what's going on basically in the Latin American countries right now. Like, it's basically the one millennial constant. We talk about Brazilian adolescent disarmament. We talk about laser-guided targeted military-grade weapons to enact the U.S. agenda across the entirety of the planet. CCF sponsoring, world conquering, telephone monitoring, right? This constant surveillance that this country puts under its citizens, and just the broader world as we are navigating spaces to extract resources, command and maintain power within the country borders and then beyond. String theory pondering, bulimic vomiting, going back to the internal relationship one might have with themselves, the abuse and or self-destruction to adhere to unreasonable societal standards. Catholic priest fondling, preemptive bombing. And then he does this cool little thing with the O sign. He talks about Osama and Obama, blending those two names together. That criticism of political figures in the U.S. is very nicely wrapped up and juxtaposed, because it almost gives the feeling that one is just equal to the other, depending on how you phrase it or look at it. Breaking in my car again, petty crime, deforestation and overlogging, Hennessy and hypnotic swallowing, right? The overindulgence and the poisoning of our bodies as we basically slow ourselves down to cope with some of the stresses and fears. Hypnotic coffin sickness, hydroponic coffins sickness, and then the wrap up at the end, right? I'm doing a very general, quick summary of all of these factors that Lupe basically describes himself to be able to see from his upbringing through the consideration of hip hop.